Imagine walking into one of the oldest, tallest forests on Earth, where the trees tower like giants reaching for the sky, their roots twisting deep into the shadowy soil. The air is thick with moisture and mystery. Here, silence is not just absence of sound, it's a weight that presses down on your chest. The forest seems alive, watching, breathing. In the summer of 2018, two close friends, Daniel and Heather, stepped into this vast wilderness. They were full of life, laughter, and dreams of adventure. But as the sun set behind those endless trees, they vanished. No trace, no clue, nothing. Just an eerie silence that swallowed their footsteps. For 4 years, the forest kept its terrible secret. Until one day, hikers stumbled upon something so strange, so chilling it sent shockwaves through the park rangers and scientists alike. A strange, pulsating fungus, feeding on a tree that seemed ancient beyond belief, entangled deep within it, was proof no one was prepared to find. What was growing in the shadows of those towering giants? And how is it connected to the disappearance of Daniel and Heather? The answers will haunt you. If you love stories that blur the line between nature as beauty and dark, mystery stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, then hit that subscribe button now. Join us as we uncover the secrets hidden deep within the Redwoods. Because this is not just a tale of two missing friends, it's a journey into the unknown. The Redwood National and State Parks of Northern California are not merely forests, they are living, breathing monuments to time itself. Imagine stepping beneath a canopy so thick that sunlight struggles to reach the moss-covered floor, where ancient giants stretch skyward. Their bark, rough and scarred, like weathered monuments, standing sentinel for centuries. These trees have witnessed centuries of storms, fires, and silence, their towering forms casting long, haunting shadows that seem to whisper secrets in the rustling leaves. The air here is heavy, cool, damp, and scented with cedar and earth, a scent so rich and raw it stirs something deep within you, a mixture of awe and unease. For millennia, these redwoods have stood as some of the tallest trees on the planet, ancient sentinels rooted in a land that time forgot. Some trees here are more than 2,000 years old, older than the written histories of the people who now call this land home. Walking through this forest, you don't just feel the presence of nature, you feel the weight of history pressing down. Every step on the soft, spongy carpet of needles seems to echo stories of long-lost tribes, settlers and travelers who passed this way, many of whom left behind only whispered legends and unexplained disappearances. The park itself holds a complex history. Officially protected since the early 20th century, the Redwoods were once nearly lost to logging and development. Fierce battles fought by environmentalists saved these giants, transforming the region into a sanctuary not only for trees, but for the mysteries they guard. Local tribes speak of the forest with reverence and caution, passing down stories of spirits that roam beneath the boughs, watchers of the living, keepers of balance, and sometimes harbingers of doom. These legends, whispered around campfires and passed between generations, tell of travelers who entered the forest only to vanish without a trace, of shadows moving just beyond sight, and strange lights flickering between the branches on moonless nights. There are tales of the Redwood Wraith, a ghostly figure said to appear before tragedies, and stories of the Whispering Grove, where voices call out to lost souls, drawing them deeper into the endless green labyrinth. Even the park rangers, hardened by years of experience, speak in hushed tones about parts of the forest where compasses spin wildly and electronic devices fail. Some speak of a strange presence, a feeling of being watched, that sends shivers down the spine. The Redwoods, beautiful and majestic as they are, hold secrets far darker than most visitors realize. As you stand beneath these towering trees, the very silence around you feels alive, waiting, watching, and sometimes it takes. Daniel Price was born and raised in the quiet town of Redding, California, nestled just beyond the edges of the vast wilderness he would one day call home. From a young age, Daniel was drawn to the outdoors not just as a pastime, but as a part of his very soul. His earliest memories were filled with sun-drenched afternoons spent fishing along the riverbanks. The smell of pine needles heavy in the air, and the steady sound of bird song echoing through the trees. His father, a retired firefighter, often took him camping deep in the forest surrounding their town, teaching him how to read the trails, build a fire, and respect the fragile balance of nature. Daniel was the kind of person who found peace in the quiet moments, a steady presence among friends and family. Someone who listened more than he spoke, whose calmness grounded those around him. Heather Cole's life ran parallel to Daniel's in many ways, though hers pulsed with a restless energy that was impossible to ignore. Raised just a few towns over, Heather was the kind of person who saw the world not just as it was, but as it could be, from an early age. She carried a camera, a constant companion that captured fleeting moments of beauty in nature and humanity alike. Her mother often said Heather had the heart of a poet and the eyes of an artist. She was fearless in her curiosity, always eager to explore the unknown and find stories hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. Where Daniel sought stillness, Heather chased motion. Together they formed a balanced two halves of a whole, bound by a shared love for the wild places most people overlooked. Their friendship began in middle school, forged over shared lunches and science projects. But it was the outdoors that truly bonded them. Weekends were often spent escaping the confines of small-town life, driving out to the foothills or the nearby national parks with backpacks and a sense of adventure. They shared countless memories, laughing by campfires, navigating narrow trails in the fading light, and marveling at star-studded skies far from city glare. For Daniel and Heather, the forest was not just a backdrop, it was a sanctuary where they could be themselves, away from the noise and expectations of the world. Their families watched their friendship grow with quiet affection. Daniel's father admired Heather's fearless spirit and how she encouraged his son to see the world with fresh eyes. Heather's mother trusted Daniel's steady presence, knowing her daughter was in safe hands. Both families often gathered for weekend barbecues and holiday celebrations, sharing stories of past hikes and planning future trips. There was a deep sense of community and warmth surrounding Daniel and Heather's safety net, woven from years of shared love and trust. Over time, their hiking trips became more ambitious. They learned to navigate rougher terrains, camp in remote areas, and respect the unpredictable moods of the wilderness. Heather's camera documented their journeys, photos of mist-covered valleys, ancient trees, and candid moments that revealed the depth of their bond. These images now serve as haunting reminders of a friendship paused abruptly, frozen in time by a mystery that refuses to fade. Despite their love for adventure, Daniel and Heather were cautious. They understood the risks, the sudden storms, the hidden cliffs, the wildlife. They carried first aid kits, maps, and enough supplies for emergencies. They left detailed plans with their families before every trip, checked in regularly, and never strayed far from known paths without reason. This meticulous care only deepened the shock when they vanished without a trace. In their small town, their disappearance sent ripples through the community. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers shared memories and prayers, hoping against hope that Daniel and Heather would somehow return. Their story was not just about two missing hikers. It was about lives intertwined with the wilderness, lives that had become part of the land itself. The morning of June 2nd, 2018, dawned crisp and clear over Redding, California. The air was cool, but held the promise of a warm day ahead. Daniel and Heather woke early, their excitement barely contained as they packed the last of their gear into Daniel's old blue Tacoma. The sun spilled golden light across the dew-kissed grass, and birds sang as if celebrating the start of their adventure. Their voices mingled with the sounds of the waking town, doors closing, cars starting, distant chatter. Heather adjusted the strap of her backpack, a bright smile lighting her face. She snapped a quick photo of Daniel leaning against the truck, his eyes calm but focused. They had been planning this trip for weeks, choosing a trail less traveled in the Redwood National and State Park Sand area, known for its towering trees and quiet solitude. They craved the peace that only the deep forest could provide, a temporary escape from the noise of everyday life. The drive to the trailhead was filled with easy conversation and laughter, the kind that comes from years of friendship. They spoke about upcoming plans, shared memories of past hikes, and joked about who was the better navigator. Heather teased Daniel for his old-fashioned paper maps, while Daniel teased her for always trusting her instinct over the compass. Their lighthearted banter masked a deep trust. They knew they could rely on each other when it mattered most. Arriving at the trailhead mid-morning, the air smelled of damp earth and cedar. The forest stood silent and imposing, the colossal redwoods casting long shadows on the mossy ground. Heather pulled out her camera, eager to capture the beauty around them. She took a selfie with Daniel, both smiling broadly, framed by the ancient giants behind them. She sent the photo to her sister with a quick message. "We're here, wish us luck." As they set off along the narrow, winding path, the forest seemed to welcome them. Birds fluttered in the canopy, and dappled sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting the ground with shifting patterns. The trail was quieter than expected, almost too quiet. Daniel remarked on the stillness, noting that they hadn't heard the usual rustle of small animals or the buzz of insects. Heather shrugged it off, attributing it to the early hour and the dense canopy above. They walked steadily, pausing occasionally to admire unusual fungi or rare wildflowers. Heather stopped to photograph a cluster of bright orange mushrooms nestled against a fallen log, while Daniel knelt to inspect fresh animal tracks near the stream. Their spirits were high, energized by the untouched beauty surrounding them. But as the morning wore on, subtle changes crept into the atmosphere. The air grew heavier, more humid, and the distant songbirds fell silent. A thick fog began to rise from the forest floor, curling between the tree trunks like ghostly fingers. The sunlight dimmed, filtered through a veil of mist. Daniel glanced at his watch. Noon was approaching and suggested they find a good spot for lunch. They found a clearing near a towering redwood, its bark deeply furrowed and ancient. They spread out their packs and settled down, sharing sandwiches and water. Conversation slowed, the silence between them stretching longer. Heather fiddled nervously with her camera strap, stealing glances at the dense forest around them. Daniel, usually the calm anchor, seemed unusually tense, scanning the tree line as if expecting something or someone. After lunch, they packed up and resumed their hike, taking a less traveled side path that Daniel had read about but never explored. The trail was narrower now, overgrown with ferns and brambles, the canopy closing in tighter above. The fog thickened, muffling their footsteps and swallowing sounds. Heather suggested turning back, but Daniel was determined to press on just a little further, convinced the path would open up beyond the next bend. And then the first sign that something was wrong. Heather stopped abruptly, her eyes fixed on a faint, unnatural sound, rhythmic tapping echoing softly through the trees. Daniel listened to, but the noise vanished as quickly as it came. They exchanged uneasy looks, but pushed forward. Minutes later, Heather noticed their footsteps no longer felt solid beneath them. The ground was soft, almost sponge-like, and patches of bright orange growth clung to the base of nearby trees. She crouched to examine it, shiver running down her spine as the strange fungus seemed to pulse faintly, like something alive. Daniel urged her to move on, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The forest, once a place of comfort and adventure, was shifting into something unfamiliar, almost hostile. The sunlight waned further as clouds thickened overhead, and a cold breeze stirred the leaves with an eerie whisper. Their last known location was somewhere along this shadowed path, where the forest had changed, and so had the air around them. It's that last selfie taken hours earlier. Remains frozen in time, a snapshot of friendship and innocence moments before the forest closed in completely. When Daniel and Heather failed to return that Sunday evening, alarm bells rang immediately. By dawn, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office had organized a surge hand rescue operation, enlisting dozens of volunteers, park rangers, and specialized teams trained for the dense and unforgiving terrain of the Redwoods. The forest, usually a place of quiet wonder, had transformed overnight into a battleground of hope and despair. On the first day, search teams fanned out from the trailhead in every direction, shouting the missing friends' names into the towering silence. The thick canopy swallowed their calls, and the underbrush resisted their progress, snagging boots and scratching arms. Helicopters circled above, their blades chopping the still air, while infrared cameras scanned the forest floor for any heat signatures. But as hours passed, the hope that they would find Daniel and Heather alive began to wane. Rescuers described the terrain as some of the most challenging they had ever faced. Veteran Ranger Steve Mallory recalled, "The Redwoods are beautiful but brutal. You never know what's waiting behind the next tree-steep ravines, slippery moss-covered rocks, or sudden drops." We moved carefully, but the forest almost seemed to fight back, like it didn't want to give up its secrets. Day 2 brought new volunteers and fresh determination. Search dogs were brought in, trained to catch even faint scent trails, but the forest's moisture and age worked against them. Every scent seemed to vanish into the endless green, leaving only silence behind. Hikers and campers in nearby areas reported feeling an eerie stillness, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath. Heather's sister, Emily, joined the search efforts alongside family and friends. She described the emotional toll. Every step was heartbreak. You want to believe they're just around the corner waiting to be found. But the forest seemed endless, and with every passing hour, hope felt more fragile. The third day brought strange occurrences that unsettled even the most experienced searchers. Compasses spun wildly, refusing to point north. Radios crackled with interference, and thick fog rolled in suddenly, blanketing the forest in a chilling gray mist. One ranger reported hearing faint whispers carried on the wind, but when he stopped to listen, there was only silence. As days turned into a week, the search expanded. Volunteers combed not only marked trails, but off-path areas, ravines, and riverbanks. Helicopter crews adjusted flight paths, but the dense canopy made aerial searches nearly impossible. Every lead ended in dead ends. No sign of backpacks, no discarded water bottles, no footprints beyond the first few miles. Families set up a base camp near the trailhead, where the air was thick with anxiety and desperate prayers. Daniel's father walked the perimeter tirelessly, clinging to memories of past camping trips. Heather's mother organized volunteers and kept a steady vigil, offering comfort to anyone who faltered. Each night they gathered to share stories, tears mingling with hope, unwilling to accept the forest's silence as the final answer. Veteran Search and Rescue Coordinator Lisa Thompson admitted, "We've lost people before, but this one was different. It was like the forest swallowed them whole without leaving a trace. That kind of disappearance, it haunts you." When the official search was called off after 10 days, many refused to stop looking. Volunteers continued their efforts for weeks, but the trail had gone cold. The Redwoods, for all their ancient majesty, had claimed to more souls and held their secret tight. Their years slipped by like shadows falling through the towering redwoods. But for the families of Daniel and Heather, time only deepened the ache of their absence. The days blurred into weeks, months, and then years, yet the silence from the forest remained absolute. Every morning brought fresh hope, every night a crushing disappointment. Daniel's father, once a man of unshakable strength, grew gaunt and quiet, retreating into memories of camping trips and laughter that now felt impossibly distant. He continued to walk the same trails, retracing steps that might never reveal answers. Heather's sister, Emily, channeled her grief into restless energy. She became a tireless advocate, organizing searches, speaking at local events, and pleading for the forest not to be forgotten. But behind her fierce determination was a raw, aching void. In quiet moments, she confessed to friends how the uncertainty was the cruelest torment, knowing that Daniel and Heather could still be out there somewhere, trapped or lost, yet unreachable. Within the small communities surrounding the Redwoods, rumors began to circulate. Some whispered of strange lights seen flickering between the trees late at night. Others spoke of mysterious figures glimpsed at the forest's edge, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Conspiracy theories found fertile ground, tales of secret government experiments, underground bunkers, even portals to other worlds hidden beneath the moss and roots. Older residents recalled other disappearances, long forgotten by official records, but etched into local folklore. Stories surfaced of a park ranger who vanished in the 1970s, his flashlight found months later suspended inexplicably in the branches of a giant redwood. Another tale told of a hiker in the 90s who wandered off the trail for days, only to return with no memory of where she had been or what had happened. These stories threaded together like strands of an uneasy tapestry, painting the Redwoods not just as a place of breathtaking beauty, but as a realm where the boundaries between reality and the unknown blurred. To some, the forest was a guardian of secrets. To others, a predator lying in wait. Despite official reassurances that the disappearances were tragic but natural, the lingering mystery clung to the community like the thick coastal fog. Families who lost loved ones found themselves caught between hope and despair, between wanting answers and fearing what those answers might be. For Daniel and Heather's families, the passing years only heightened their resolve, not just to find closure, but to warn others of the forest's unpredictable power. The Redwoods had taken much, but their story was far from over. It was a cool morning in April 2022 when three friends, Mark, Jenna, and Luis, set out on a hiking trip into the deep. Lesser-known trails of the Redwood National and State Parks, their goal was simple: to escape the noise of everyday life, breathe fresh forest air, and soak in the towering majesty of the ancient trees. The trail was rugged, overgrown in places, the thick canopy above filtering sunlight into shifting patterns on the soft earth below. Birds called sporadically, but otherwise, the forest held a heavy silence that felt almost unnatural. Hours into their hike, as they rounded a bend near a massive redwood, whose girth seemed to swallow the path, Mark's eyes caught sight of something unusual at the base of the tree. At first, he thought it was moss, but as he drew closer, the mass revealed itself to be something else entirely. Thick, pulsating clusters of fungus covered the bark, their colors a disturbing mix of bright orange and inky black. The surface glistened with moisture, and a faint rhythmic movement suggested the growth was alive in a way that no ordinary fungus should be. The air around the tree smelled strangely sharp, metallic temps blended with the damp earthiness of the forest floor. Jenna wrinkled her nose, a flicker of unease creeping into her voice. "Do you smell that? It's wrong?" Louise crouched down, reaching out to touch the growth. But Mark stopped him, his heart pounding. The texture was slick and slimy like wet leather, and when a small piece flaked off, it revealed pale, fibrous strands underneath almost like tissue, yet unlike anything he had seen before. As the trio stood frozen, Jenna's gaze caught something tangled within the fungus. A thread of fabric faded teal and white, torn and stuck fast, was partially buried beneath the mass. Her breath hitched. "Guys, this looks like clothing." Mark's mind raced. The pattern was eerily familiar, the same as the checkered shirt Daniel Price had worn the last time he was seen in 2018. A chill ran down Jenna's spine as she pulled out her phone, searching frantically for the missing persons flyer she had seen online. The match was unmistakable. Panic rippled through the group. Luce's hands trembled as he fumbled with his phone, dialing the park ranger station. His voice cracked as he tried to explain what they had found. Within minutes, 2 rangers, a county deputy, and a park biologist arrived, their faces grim and eyes wide with disbelief. The biologist knelt beside the tree, donning gloves as she carefully peeled away layers of the fungus. The growth tore with a wet, sickening sound, revealing fibrous, pale strands beneath. Her expression darkened as she uncovered small objects, rusted shoe eyelets, a broken zipper pull embedded deep in the mass. And then something far worse, a fragment of bone, thin and curved. The deputy radioed urgently for the coroner, his voice low and steady, despite the shock etched across his face. The hiker stepped back, shaken and silent, the forest's heavy stillness closing in around them once again. What had once been a place of wonder had become a chilling tableau of mystery and horror, proof that the forest had kept its secret all along. Once the remains and fungus samples were carefully collected from the base of the ancient redwood, they were transported under strict chain of custody protocols to a state forensic laboratory. The air in the sterile lab was cold and clinical, in unsettling contrast to the damp, shadowed forest where the discovery was made. Specialists in forensic anthropology and mycology worked side by side, each aware that this case stretched beyond ordinary boundaries. The initial examination of the bone fragments confirmed the worst. The remains belonged to Daniel Price and Heather Cole. DNA testing was swift and conclusive, providing a heartbreaking confirmation to families who had long awaited answers. But the mystery deepened with the fungus samples. Scientists had never seen anything like it before. That fungus was unlike any known species. It exhibited an unusual ability to consume not only dead wood but organic tissue, breaking down complex proteins and seemingly thriving on bone and flesh. Under high-powered microscopes, its cellular structure revealed rapid, pulsating growth, almost as if it were alive in a way beyond ordinary fungi. Some researchers speculated it might be a previously undiscovered parasitic organism, perhaps even a mutation triggered by unknown environmental factors. Dr. Karen Miles, mycologist brought in to study the samples, explained in an interview, "This fungus defies everything we understand about fungal biology. Its rapid spread and affinity for organic materials suggest a symbiotic or predatory nature we have not documented before. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered, and that raises both scientific curiosity and concern." Forensic anthropologists face their own puzzles. The positioning of the remains tangled within the fungus suggested that Daniel and Heather's bodies had been moved either by natural forces or something else before becoming enveloped by the growth. This movement challenged theories of natural decomposition at the site and hinted at a more complex and disturbing chain of events. Further analysis revealed traces of chemicals in the surrounding soil that did not match any known natural substances in the park. These compounds raised questions about potential contamination or unknown environmental influences. The lab remained tight-lipped about the full details, citing ongoing investigations and the sensitive nature of the case. Park officials released cautious statements, framing the findings as a natural but rare decomposition process, but many experts remained skeptical. Some scientists suggested the fungus might represent an unknown ecological phenomenon triggered by climate change or human interference. Others whispered of possibilities that bordered on the paranormal. Dr. Samuel Whitman, forensic pathologist who reviewed the autopsy reports, shared his perspective. From a medical standpoint, the state of the remains and the involvement of this unusual fungus suggests a timeline and process that don't fit conventional models. It leaves us with more questions than answers. Behind the scenes, the families received updates with a mixture of relief and sorrow. The confirmation brought some closure, but also opened a door to unsettling questions. How did Daniel and Heather's remains travel through the forest? What was the nature of this mysterious fungus? And most hauntingly, was the forest itself harboring secrets far beyond human understanding? As news of the discovery rippled through the community and beyond, experts and amateurs alike grappled with how to make sense of the unsettling facts. On one side stood the natural explanation, that Daniel and Heather's disappearance and the strange fungus infestation were tragic consequences of the forest's unique ecosystem array. But natural cycle of decay accelerated by environmental conditions. Scientists pointed to known fungal species that slowly break down organic matter and suggested that perhaps this new fungus was simply an unusual variant, thriving in the damp, ancient environment of the Redwoods. But even within the scientific community, doubts lingered. The fungus's rapid growth, its apparent ability to consume more than just wood, and the mysterious chemical traces in the soil defied easy explanation. Some experts proposed that the fungus might represent a previously unknown form of parasitism, one that could theoretically affect living tissue. Could it be that Daniel and Heather were caught in a natural process gone terrifyingly wrong? The idea of fungal parasitism in humans is not entirely without precedent in nature. Certain species of fungi infect and manipulate insects, changing their behavior before ultimately claiming their bodies. But for such a phenomenon to leap to humans was unprecedented and chilling to imagine. Alongside these natural theories arose whispers of something far more unsettling. Paranormal enthusiasts pointed to the unexplained movements of the remains within the fungus as evidence that the forest itself was alive in a way that defied logic. How else could two bodies, missing for 4 years, suddenly be found intertwined in a pulsating fungal mass deep within the woods? Some suggested that the Redwoods harbored an ancient intelligence, a force older than human understanding, capable of both protecting and imprisoning those who entered its realm. Local legends of forest spirits and guardians took on new weight, blending folklore with the grim reality of the discovery. Among the more eerie theories was the notion that the fungus was not merely decomposing organic matter, but actively interacting with it, perhaps even preserving it in a grotesque symbiosis. This idea was bolstered by the strange fibrous tissue found within the fungal growth, which some scientists speculated could be a hybrid of fungal and human cells. Could this be a form of fungal parasitism, unlike any known to science, one that blurs the line between life and death? Skeptics cautioned against leaping to supernatural conclusions, emphasizing the need for rigorous scientific investigation. Yet the more time passed, the less these mysteries seemed to resolve. The movements of the remains, almost as if repositioned after death, defied natural forces like wind or animal activity, leaving investigators puzzled. Was there an unknown animal, or something else entirely, capable of disturbing the site? Or was it evidence of a force beyond explanation? For the families, these theories offered little comfort. Some clung to the hope that natural explanations would eventually bring peace. Others found themselves drawn to the darker possibilities, seeking meaning in the shadows that had swallowed their loved ones. The forest, with its ancient trees and unyielding silence, had become a canvas for human fears, hopes, and unanswered questions. As the debate continues, one truth remains clear. The Redwoods are not simply trees and soil. They are a living mystery, a place where science, folklore, and the unknown converge. And for Daniel and Heather, their story is forever entwined with the secrets hidden deep within that ancient forest. The years that followed the discovery did little to ease the pain etched into the hearts of Daniel and Heather's families. Their grief was a constant companion, woven into the fabric of everyday life, a quiet ache beneath every smile, a shadow behind every memory. Daniel's father often sat beneath a towering redwood, tracing the grain of the bark with trembling fingers, as if hoping to feel a connection to the son he had lost. His eyes, once bright and steady, now held a profound sorrow, a reflection of a love that death could not erase. Heather's mother carried her daughter's camera everywhere, a bittersweet reminder of the vibrant spirit who had once filled every frame with light and laughter. She spoke often of hope, a fragile, flickering flame, believing that somewhere, beyond the reach of the forest's secrets, Heather's soul remained free. Their families found solace in each other, gathering in quiet moments to share stories, tears, and the unspoken bond of loss. The hunger tree, as it came to be called by locals, remains at the heart of the mystery. Towering and ominous, it stands as a silent witness to the tragedy, a living monument to the vanished friends. The strange fungus continues to cling to its base, an unsettling reminder that the forest's secrets are far from fully uncovered. Park officials have cordoned off the area, warning visitors to stay clear. Yet the tree draws a steady stream of curious hikers and investigators, each hoping for answers that never come. Despite scientific study and countless theories, the forest holds its silence. The unanswered questions linger in the cool, damp air, the why and how, echoing through the canopy like ghostly whispers. The Redwoods have claimed another chapter of mystery, a story of loss and unanswered fate that defies explanation. For those who love Daniel and Heather, the mystery is more than a cold case or a scientific enigma. It is a wound that refuses to heal. Yet in their pain, there is also a quiet strength and determination to remember, to honor, and to keep the story alive so that no one who enters the forest walks unaware of its shadows. As the sun sets behind the ancient giants, casting long shadows that stretch across the forest floor, the hunger tree stands tall, mysterious, and eternal. It reminds us that some secrets are rooted deep in the earth, waiting patiently for those brave enough to seek them, and perhaps those wise enough to let them be. As we close this chapter on the haunting mystery of Daniel and Heather, their story lingers in the silence of the redwoods, reminding us that nature holds wonders beyond our understanding, sometimes unfathomable darkness. If this journey into the unknown stirred something in you, whether fear or the simple desire to uncover truth, then don't walk away just yet. Hit that subscribe button, join our community, and stay with us as we explore the world's most gripping mysteries, one story at a time, because some secrets deserve to be told, and some truths refuse to be forgotten. Thank you for watching. Till next time, stay curious and stay safe.